8. True Craigslist job offer. Horror stories barely escaped alive. Craigslist is supposed to help people find work, not vanish. Every listing looks harmless at first. Assistant needed. Easy warehouse help. 25 per hour cash. But behind a few of those ads, someone was waiting for more than an employee. Tonight, we're diving into 8 true Craigslist job offer horror stories, encounters that started with opportunity and ended with panic. So the next time a posting looks too good to be true, remember, some job interviews don't end with a handshake. They end with a door locking behind you. I was 22 and desperate for work. My last job ended when the restaurant shut down overnight, and rent was due in 3 days. Scrolling Craigslist at 2 a.m., I found an ad that seemed perfect. Delivery driver needed, cash paid daily, must have own vehicle, minimal contact, just drop and go. It sounded almost too easy. The pay was $50 per delivery, and the meeting spot was only 30 minutes away. The poster's name was Ken. He texted back immediately when I replied, "Meet me tomorrow behind the old mall parking lot, 2 p.m. sharp. Bring your trunk empty." No company name, no paperwork. Still, I was broke, and greed is louder than fear when bills pile up. The next afternoon, the sky hung low and gray, the kind of weather that makes daylight feel half asleep. I drove to the back of the mall, where loading docks sat rusting behind locked fences. No one was around. Then, a white van pulled up. No logos, no plates on the front bumper. A man stepped out mid-40s, wiry frame, wearing reflective sunglasses even though the clouds hid the sun. "You're the Craigslist guy?" he asked. I nodded. He opened the van's back doors. Inside were 4 cardboard boxes, sealed with black tape. "Each one goes to a different address," he said, "but drop this one first." He handed me a box about the size of a microwave, already marked with my name in permanent marker. "Deliver it to yourself," he said, and smiled. For a second, I thought I misheard him. Then he added, "Just a test run to make sure you're trustworthy." He pushed a clipboard toward me. There was a single line that said, "Received by." I was supposed to sign. Something in my gut twisted. The addresses on the other boxes were just blank stickers, no writing at all. I looked up to ask what exactly I'd be delivering, but he was already sliding one hand inside his jacket pocket. That's when I saw the gun grip. Not pointing at me, just visible enough to make conversation feel optional. "Take the box," he said quietly. "Put it in your car." I did. He stepped back, watching me as I loaded it into my trunk. "Good," he said. "Now drive home. Don't open it. I'll call when you're ready for the next job." Then he got into the van and drove off, turning into an alley behind the mall, an exit that didn't lead anywhere. The whole way home, my heart hammered. The box shifted in the trunk with every turn. I kept glancing in the mirror, half expecting the white van to reappear behind me. When I parked, I sat there for 5 full minutes, trying to decide whether to call the police or just pretend none of it happened. Curiosity won. I opened the trunk. The box was vibrating. I froze. Not loud, not violent, just a low, steady hum like a phone on silent mode buzzing against wood. I peeled off the tape, lifting one flap. Inside were dozens of old cell phones stacked, wired together, all connected by a tangle of red cords to a single digital timer. 00032. I slammed the trunk. Ran. I was halfway to the neighbor's porch when I heard a dull thud, not loud enough for an explosion, but deep enough to shake the ground under my shoes. The air filled with the smell of burnt plastic. When I turned around, smoke curled from the seams of my trunk. Police and fire trucks came within minutes. They taped off the entire block. One officer asked me to describe the man. When I said white van, no plates, he frowned. "You're the third one this month," he said. "Same ad, same story. They use you to move packages they can't risk touching themselves." I asked what was inside. He wouldn't tell me, but I caught a glimpse of the hazmat team pulling a melted phone with strange metal fragments fused to it. He just said, "You're lucky the timer glitched." That night, Ken's Craigslist ad disappeared. So did his number. A week later, a new post appeared under a different name. Reliable driver needed cash daily, no questions. Same wording, same meeting spot. The comments below were full of people saying the job was fake, dangerous, possibly criminal. Still, someone had already replied, "Is this position still available?" Sometimes I wonder if that's how the cycle keeps going, one desperate person at a time. Craigslist doesn't show you the faces behind the screen, only the offer that sounds like salvation. Mine offered $50 a drop. It almost cost me everything. I was job hunting after college, scrolling through Craigslist every night, half hoping for anything that didn't involve fast food or telemarketing. That's when I saw an ad that caught my eye. Caretaker wanted for elderly man, live-in position, $600 a week, room and board included. It sounded almost perfect. The post even mentioned quiet property, minimal visitors, privacy guaranteed. Exactly what I thought I wanted. The contact name was Mr. Lorne, and when I called, his voice was polite but distant. The kind of tone that makes you sit up straighter. He said he needed someone immediately and offered to meet that evening. His address was 2 hours north of town past the suburbs, then miles of pine forest. By the time I got there, the sun had dipped below the tree line, and fog was starting to roll in. The house was enormous but falling apart like a mansion that hadn't been loved in decades. Every window was dark except for one light glowing faintly in the attic. When I knocked, the door opened just enough for an old man to peer out. "You must be here for the position," he said, smiling with cracked lips. "Come in before the cold gets you." Inside, the air smelled faintly of damp wood and iron. The furniture was covered in white sheets, the wallpaper peeling like sunburned skin. But the man, Mr. Lorne, looked sharp in an old suit, hair combed, posture perfect. He offered me tea and started explaining the job. I'd need to cook simple meals, bring up firewood, and occasionally help him down the stairs. Easy enough. Then he added one rule. "Don't go into the basement," he said. "That's where I keep things I'm not ready to throw away." I thought he meant old furniture, so I nodded. The first 2 nights were uneventful. He stayed mostly in his study, reading by candlelight. I'd bring him soup, and he'd thank me in a whisper, like we were in a library. But every night, around 2 a.m., I heard something beneath the floorboards, slow, uneven footsteps. Not the creaks of old wood, heavier, deliberate. The third night, curiosity won. I crept downstairs with a flashlight. The basement door had 3 locks, all on my side. That should have comforted me. It didn't. Because from the other side, someone whispered my name. I froze. The voice was faint, like someone speaking through a wall of cloth. "Please, help me!" I ran back upstairs, locked myself in my room, and waited for dawn. When I confronted Mr. Lorne that morning, he smiled without looking up from his newspaper. "I told you not to go down there." His tone wasn't angry, it was disappointed, like I'd ruined a surprise. I asked who was in the basement. He folded the paper slowly and said, "Not who, what?" Then he left the room. I packed my things that afternoon, But when I tried to leave, my car wouldn't start. Battery dead, even though I'd driven it just yesterday. I went back inside to ask for jumper cables. He was sitting in the living room, staring at the floor. At his feet was a small, wrapped package. "This is your week's pay," he said. "You've done well. One last favor before you go." He handed me a brass key. It was warm to the touch. "Bring up the box at the bottom of the basement stairs." I refused at first, but when I looked outside, nothing but endless trees, no cell signal, no neighbors. I realized leaving might not be an option until he let me. So I took the key. The basement smelled like rot and something metallic. My flashlight beam shook as I descended. At the bottom, there was no furniture, no tools, just a single wooden crate, chains wrapped around it like vines. And inside, something moved. "Please," the voice whispered again. "He's lying to you." The sound wasn't coming from inside the box. It came from the wall behind it. I turned my light and saw what looked like old wallpaper peeling away, except beneath it wasn't concrete, it was skin. Human skin. I bolted up the stairs, but when I reached the top, the door slammed shut. The locks clicked from the outside. "I told you not to go down there, Mr. Lauren's voice echoed from the other side. Something began pounding on the walls around me, slow at first, then frantic, like dozens of fists inside the house. I screamed until my throat burned. Then silence. When I woke, the door was open. Daylight filled the room. The crate was gone. So was he. I ran out to the road until I found a passing truck. The driver called the police, but by the time they arrived, the mansion had burned to the ground. They said there were no bodies inside, but in the ashes they found several brass keys, all identical to the one I'd been given. Months later, I checked Craigslist again, just to see if I'd been crazy. There it was. Caretaker wanted for elderly man, live-in position, quiet property, room and board included. Same wording, different city, different contact name. But the picture of the house was the same just before it burned. Craigslist isn't the kind of place you expect to find a dream job. But when you've been out of work for 6 months, you start to lower your standards and your instincts. The ad was short. Office assistant needed for private consultant. $30 or part-time. Must be discreet. No company name, no website, just a phone number and an address in a part of town where old warehouses were being turned into offices. The reply came within 5 minutes. "You sound perfect. Can you meet tonight 7 p.m. sharp? Don't be late." It felt rushed, but desperation dulls logic. I said yes. When I arrived, the building looked abandoned, one light glowing from the 3rd floor, the rest swallowed by darkness. The front door was propped open by a stack of folders. Inside smelled of dust and old metal. Every footstep echoed like I was walking inside a cave. At the top of the stairs, a man stood waiting in a dark suit and tie. His hair was gray, slicked back, and his expression perfectly still. "You're early," he said, as if that were a test I'd just failed. He led me into a small office, one desk, one chair, no computer, just a recorder on the table. "Please, sit," he said. He pressed record. "State your name." I hesitated, then said it. He wrote something in a notebook, neat, deliberate handwriting. "You're punctual. That's good." He leaned forward. "Do you have any health conditions?" It felt odd for an office job, but before I could ask why, he added, "We need to ensure you can complete long hours." His phrasing was strange, complete long hours, like I was going to be tested, not employed. Then he asked, "Do you live alone?" My throat went dry. Why, I asked. He smiled faintly. Company policy. The questions grew more personal. He asked what time I usually slept, how often I left the house, if I kept in touch with family. Each answer he wrote down carefully, then repeated back to me in the same calm tone, like he was memorizing. When he finally stood, I exhaled in relief, thinking it was over. The job, he said, requires a short demonstration. He walked to a door behind the desk and unlocked it. A narrow hallway stretched out beyond, lit by flickering fluorescent lights. Follow me. The hall was colder than the office, and the air smelled faintly sweet like antiseptic and rust. We stopped at another door. A small red light blinked above it. Inside is where you'll be working, he said. Don't touch anything until instructed. He opened it and motioned me in. The room was windowless, concrete floor, a single metal table in the center, and on it a mannequin. Human-sized, dressed in business clothes, its face half gone. What is this? I asked, my voice trembling. Demonstration, he said. Show me how you'd handle a client who's unresponsive. I laughed nervously, thinking maybe this was a weird role-play test. He didn't laugh back. He picked up a small syringe from the table and placed it in my hand. Pretend, he said softly, right there in the neck. I stared at him. He stared at me. No movement, no emotion. You wanted to work, didn't you? I dropped the syringe. It clattered on the floor. That's when I noticed the stains on the concrete brownish red, scrubbed but not gone. And the faint smell beneath the antiseptic something human. I turned to leave, but the door was already closed. He reached into his jacket for a moment. I thought he had a weapon, but instead he pulled out another recorder. He pressed play. My voice filled the room, the exact conversation we just had, only my answers were different. In the recording, I'd told him I lived alone in a rural area, no family, no visitors. I never said any of that. That's not me, I stammered. He tilted his head. It is now. He stepped closer, and for the first time I saw the inside of his eyes, not the color, but the emptiness behind them. We already have your replacement, he said. Then the lights went out. I didn't wait to understand. I ran. The door wasn't locked this time like he wanted me to leave. I bolted down the stairs, past the dusty lobby, into the freezing night. I didn't stop until I was back in my car, hands shaking too hard to fit the key in the ignition. When I looked up at the building, the window on the third floor was dark, but the one below it, the window I hadn't noticed before, was lit bright red. The next morning, I called the number from the ad. A woman's voice answered. Craigslist employment screening. How may I help you? I froze. It sounded professional, automated. I'm calling about an interview I had last night. One moment, she said. Then silence. Then my own voice, recorded, saying my name, the version from the fake recording. Yes, that's correct, she said cheerfully. We have you confirmed. Click. I drove back that night, but the warehouse was gone. Not demolished, gone. Empty lot, chain fence. Not a footprint or scrap of metal left behind. Police said the address had been abandoned for years, but I saw the ad again 2 weeks later, under a different number. Same text, same pay, same line at the end. Must be discreet. Now, whenever I see a job posting that feels too good to be true, I skip it. Because some people on Craigslist aren't hiring employees. They're replacing them. It started like every other mistake with an ad that looked harmless. Photographer seeking models for paid art project. $100 per session. No experience necessary. Must be comfortable with outdoor environments. I was 19, broke, and naive enough to think that our project meant something classy. The ad had a few sample photos, moody, forest backdrops, faces half lit by sunlight through trees. They looked professional, I thought. Why not? The reply came that same night. You have the right look. Meet tomorrow, 4 p.m. at the Old Nature Preserve. Bring 2 changes of clothes. Signed simply, Mark. The location was 30 miles outside town, a place that used to be a state park before it closed down. No tourists, no rangers, just endless woods. I drove out there thinking I'd finally catch a break, a little money, maybe even some decent portfolio shots. When I arrived, his van was already there, silver, windows tinted. The back doors were open, showing camera gear, neatly arranged tripods, lenses, light reflectors, even a small generator. He looked normal enough, mid-30s, clean cut, friendly smile that didn't reach his eyes. You made good time, he said. We'll start in the clearing. We walked for nearly 10 minutes through the woods until we reached a narrow patch where sunlight broke through the trees. He set down his camera, checked the angles, then asked me to stand by a tree. The first few shots were fine, awkward smiles, generic poses. Then his tone changed. Try something more, vulnerable, he said. Look like you're lost. He moved closer, circling me as he shot, camera shutter clicking too fast to be deliberate. At one point, he whispered, "Perfect." But when I glanced at the camera screen, the photos weren't of me posing. They were of me looking away, caught between blinks, mid-step, like he'd been photographing someone else entirely. He told me to change into the second outfit, a plain white shirt and jeans. When I turned around, he was already unzipping a second bag. Inside wasn't camera gear. It was rope, duct tape, and a small bottle of chloroform. He froze when he realized I'd seen. We stared at each other, no sound but the wind through the trees. Then he smiled, as if nothing had happened. Prop setup, he said, for a scene later. He reached into his jacket. I didn't wait to see what came next. I ran. Branches tore at my arms as I crashed through the woods, tripping over roots, scrambling for any sign of the trail. Behind me, I heard him calling calm at first, then shouting, "You're ruining the shot." I didn't stop. I could hear his boots thudding closer, the sound of twigs snapping behind me. Then, out of nowhere, a burst of light headlights. A ranger truck. I screamed and ran straight into its path. The ranger slammed the brakes, jumped out, and I collapsed, gasping. When I pointed back toward the woods, the man, the photographer, was gone. The ranger drove me back to the lot. The van was still there, empty, doors wide open. Inside, all the equipment was gone except for a small digital camera left on the floor. He handed it to me. "Yours." I shook my head. He turned it on. There was only one file. A photo. Taken from behind me as I was running through the woods, time-stamped 3 minutes ago. Police searched the area for 2 days. No sign of him, no fingerprints, no license plate record. They told me I probably misunderstood, that maybe I panicked and imagined things. But 2 weeks later, I got an email from an unknown address. Subject line, "Missed our second session." Attached was a photo. Me, sleeping. The same white shirt from that day, but I hadn't seen it since. I'd left it behind in the woods. I moved out of state, changed my number, and stopped using Craigslist entirely. Years passed. Then, last summer, A true crime YouTuber covered a case about missing women who'd answered photography job ads online. Their last known locations were all rural, all different states, but every one of them had been contacted by a mark. The photos they found on his camera were all taken from a distance, through trees, through windows, through car mirrors. He never stopped. He just kept moving. Sometimes, when I'm out late, I still hear the faint click of a camera shutter. Could be paranoia, could be nothing. But once, when I came home, I found an envelope on my doorstep. No return address. Inside was a printed photo. It was me again, same white shirt, standing in front of my new apartment. No date, no signature. Just one line on the back, written in black ink. Perfect. I answered a Craigslist ad because it sounded almost boring. And boring, I thought, meant safe. Night shift inventory assistant needed. 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. 22-hour. Cash paid nightly. No background check, no resume, no interview. The guy just texted me the address of an old distribution warehouse on the edge of town. He said the manager would be there to let me in. It was late November, freezing. The building looked abandoned, broken sign, half the lights dead. But when I tried the door, it opened. Inside, the air was warm and humming with electricity. Rows of tall shelves stretched into the darkness, and, way at the back, a single light glowed over a small office window. I called out. A voice answered, "Come on in." The man inside wore a reflective vest and a smile that didn't fit his eyes. He looked tired but wired, like he hadn't slept in days. "You must be Jason," he said. "I'm Dennis. Welcome to night shift." He handed me a clipboard with a list of boxes to scan. Each item was labeled only with long serial numbers, no brand names, no descriptions. "What's in them?" I asked. He shrugged. "Doesn't matter. Corporate stuff. Just make sure the barcodes beep." Then he pointed toward the far end of the warehouse. "Start at row D. Don't go past the yellow line." The shift started quietly, just the echo of my footsteps and the steady beep of the scanner. Every so often, I'd hear metal creak from somewhere above like the building was breathing. By midnight, I was deep in row D, half the lights flickering overhead. That's when I noticed something strange. Every box I scanned after the beep, the barcode number changed on the screen, like it was updating itself. And the numbers weren't random anymore. They started forming sequences that looked like dates, recent ones. 11, 12, 23, 11 into 13, 23, 11 and 14 and 23. Tomorrow's date was next. I brought the clipboard back to Dennis, but his office light was off. The door was open a crack. "Dennis." No answer. The office smelled faintly of metal and something sour. The computer monitor glowed blue. On the screen was a live security feed, a view of the warehouse rows. And in the middle of row D, someone was standing there. Not me. Someone else, same vest, same clipboard facing away from the camera, perfectly still. I turned toward the hallway. Footsteps echoed, slow, deliberate, one aisle over. I called again. "Dennis." The footsteps stopped. Then clack. A light switched off near the back. Then another. Each row went dark, one by one, until the only light left was above me. I ran to the exit door, but when I pulled the handle, it didn't budge. Locked. The emergency exit had a panic bar, but it felt like it was welded shut. Even the glass window was covered from the outside, something metallic pressed against it. My phone had no signal. I shouted again, but the warehouse swallowed my voice whole. Then came a faint hum low, mechanical, rising from beneath the floor. One by one, the overhead lights flickered back on. And standing in the next aisle, half in shadow, was another person in a reflective vest. Same height, same hair, same face. Mine. It just stood there, head tilted slightly, mimicking my every move with a half-second delay. When I stepped forward, it did too. When I raised my hand, it did the same. Then, all at once, its head twitched to the side too fast, unnatural. And it smiled. The sound system crackled. A voice Dennis's came through the speakers, distorted. Keep scanning. Jason, they're almost done copying you. I dropped the scanner and ran. The aisles seemed endless now. Every turn led to more boxes, more shadows. And from the far end, the hum grew louder, like hundreds of machines powering up. The lights flickered again. Now there were 3 of them, all dressed like me, all smiling. I ducked into the office and slammed the door. The security feed showed the copies walking slowly between aisles, heads jerking, movements stuttering, like glitching mannequins. One of them turned toward the camera and waved. The feed froze. Then a new window opened on the monitor. It showed a text log, auto-updating. Unit 01 active. Unit 002 active. Unit 03 active. Source confirmed. And then below that line, upload complete. The hum stopped. I stepped outside again. The copies were gone. The warehouse was silent. When I reached the main door, it swung open easily. Cold air hit my face. Outside, the parking lot was empty. Dennis's car gone. His office lights off. I ran to my car, started it, and drove home without looking back. The next morning, I went straight to the police. They searched the address. There was no active business license, no records, no sign of anyone named Dennis working there. The officer asked me to show proof of the job ad. When I checked Craigslist, it was gone. But in my downloads folder, the job posting was still saved as a PDF. Except now, the title had changed. Subject Recruitment, Unit Replacement Protocol. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. Thanks for your service. You'll receive payment within 24 hours. Attached was a photo me, standing in the warehouse, eyes blank, barcode sticker on my neck. The timestamp said 3:17 an hour after I'd already driven home. Now, when I walk past industrial areas at night, I sometimes hear the low hum of machinery, even when the buildings look abandoned. Once, I followed the sound just for a second. Through a crack in a warehouse door, I saw silhouettes moving between the shelves. All in reflective vests, all identical. And when one turned toward me, I didn't wait to see its face, because I already knew what I'd find. I used to think babysitting was the safest side job in the world. A few hours, easy money, maybe free food. But that was before Craigslist taught me that not every house with toys inside has a child. The ad read, evening sitter needed, quiet home, light duties, $200 flat rate, 6 p.m., midnight, must be punctual and good with children. The message came minutes after I replied. Perfect. Come tonight if possible. The boy's already asleep. Address attached door will be unlocked. That last part should have scared me. Instead, I thought, cool, less small talk. The house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, lights on only upstairs. Inside smelled faintly of lavender and dust. A woman appeared at the top of the stairs, hair pinned tight, face half in shadow. I'm Mrs. Gaines. You must be Kara, she said. He's in bed. Just keep the house quiet. Then, like she'd practiced it, she added, "Whatever you do, don't look under his door if he starts talking." Before I could ask what that meant, she handed me the cash up front and left. The front door clicked, and the silence that followed didn't feel like peace. It felt like holding your breath underwater. For the first hour, everything was fine. TV on low, scrolling my phone, occasionally glancing at the baby monitor on the counter. The screen was old, black and white. It showed the outline of a small bed and what looked like a child's back rising and falling. At 9 p.m., a whisper came through the monitor. "Can you read to me?" I froze. The voice was soft, polite, but wrong somehow, like someone trying to sound like a kid. "Your mom said you were asleep," I said, half joking. "She says that," the voice answered, "but she doesn't sleep here anymore." The hair on my arms lifted. I muted the monitor, told myself it was interference or a neighbor's signal. Then came a soft creak from upstairs. Footsteps. Too slow, too heavy for a child. I called out, "Hello." Nothing. The footsteps stopped above me, right over the living room ceiling. Then 3 knocks, rhythmic, coming from inside the baby's room. I climbed the stairs, each step feeling longer than the last. At the end of the hallway, the door to the boy's room was shut. A warm yellow light glowed beneath it. Something moved past the gap, a shadow too tall to belong to a kid. Then that same small voice said, "Don't come in. He doesn't like that." I backed away, my hand shaking on the railing. The front door handle rattled downstairs, Mrs. Gaines. I ran down, heart racing, but when I opened it, the porch was empty. Only her car still idled in the driveway, driver's door wide open. I dialed her number, straight to voicemail. Then the monitor crackled again. "He's awake now." The camera feed fuzzed, then cleared. The bed was empty. A shape stood near the corner, tall, thin, its head bent too far to the side. It turned toward the camera, and for a split second I saw a grin's small teeth, too many of them. Then the feed went dark. I grabbed my keys and ran, but when I reached the front door, the bolt had turned itself. Locked. I yanked and pounded until my hands hurt. Behind me, floorboards groaned. Something was coming down the stairs slow, dragging one foot after the other. I didn't look. I bolted for the kitchen window, shoved it open, and crawled out into the cold night. I sprinted straight to my car, but as I turned the ignition, the dashboard lights flickered and the baby monitor, still in my bag, lit up on its own. Static hissed, then a voice, not the child this time, lower, calm. "You did so well, Kara. He likes you. Come back tomorrow, same time." Then it clicked off. I drove until sunrise. The police didn't find anything unusual. No child, no Mrs. Gaines. The house had been empty for years. Neighbors said it had burned partially in a fire, then rebuilt, but no one ever moved back in. In the basement, they found something else. A small wooden bed frame and dozens of baby monitors stacked neatly, all still plugged in. Each one tuned to the same channel. A month later, a new ad appeared on Craigslist. Evening sitter needed, $200 flat rate, quiet home, must be punctual. Same wording, same street. But the contact name this time was mine, Kara Gaines. Sometimes, late at night, my phone buzzes with a number I don't recognize. When I answer, all I hear is breathing. Then a small voice saying, "You said you'd read to me. Craigslist always made blue-collar work sound honest. Show up, sweat, get paid in cash. Simple. That's what I thought when I saw the ad. Overnight construction help needed. Cash on completion. Must bring gloves. No questions. No company name, no contact photo, but the location was just 15 minutes away, a half-finished overpass near the interstate. I'd passed it every day. So I texted the number. The reply came instantly. You're hired. Be there at midnight. Wear dark clothes. By the time I arrived, the highway was empty. No orange cones, no heavy machinery running. Just one generator light flickering beside a chain-link fence. A man waved me over, construction vest, hard hat, clipboard. Normal, except his vest had no company logo. You the Craigslist guy, he asked? Good. We're behind schedule. He handed me a pair of gloves and pointed toward the pit where a stretch of asphalt was missing. We're pouring new fill, he said. You'll help with prep work. After that, we cover it up. The air smelled like rain and metal. I saw a few other workers down there, shadows moving behind the floodlight, but they didn't talk. Didn't even look up. The man beside me clapped my shoulder. You'll fit right in, he said. Nobody complains here. He led me to the edge of the pit. At the bottom were concrete forms and something else. Shapes under a tarp. I asked, "What's that?" Old piping, he said quickly. Just help them tie off the rebar. He climbed back up before I could say anything else. Down in the pit, the others moved like sleepwalkers. Their faces were gray with dust, eyes hollow, hands trembling as they worked. One of them looked at me for the first time and whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Before I could respond, the generator light above flickered once, twice, then died. Darkness swallowed us. I heard a hiss not of air or steam, but of breathing, deep, wet, coming from beneath the tarp. Something shifted under there, heavy, slow. I scrambled for the ladder, but a voice from above yelled down, "Stay where you are." The floodlight came back on. The tarp was gone. And the piping underneath wasn't metal. They were coffins, old, cracked, half-filled with water. The man in the vest jumped down beside me, mud splattering his boots. "Relax," he said calmly. "City keeps digging them up during new projects. We just rebury them." He smiled. "It's cheaper than paperwork." I backed away, but the workers had stopped moving. All of them were staring at me, now blank faces, pale eyes reflecting the light. Then one of them dropped a shovel. When it hit the ground, it sounded like metal on bone. The man in the vest sighed. "Looks like we need another." He pulled a radio from his pocket and spoke quietly. "Got a replacement." Something cold touched my ankle. I looked down. A hand gray, slick, reaching from inside one of the coffins, fingers gripping my boot, pulling with impossible strength. I kicked free and scrambled up the ladder, but when I reached the top, the man was waiting. "Leaving already?" he asked. His face didn't look tired anymore. It looked empty. Eyes black, mouth twitching in a smile too wide to be human. I shoved past him and ran toward my truck. The road looked wrong now, no signs, no exit ramp, just dirt stretching into fog. Behind me, the generator's hum deepened, turning into something like a heartbeat. Then came voices, dozens of them, chanting in low unison. "Cover it up! Cover it up!" I drove until the fog broke. When I looked back, there was no construction site at all, just an open field. The next morning, I went back with the police. They found tire tracks, but nothing else. No pit, no equipment, no men, just flattened grass. The officer asked if I had proof. I showed him the ad on Craigslist. He scrolled for a while, frowning, then said, This posting's 4 years old. It had the same number, same text, posted the week a worker named Dennis had gone missing on that same overpass job. They never found him. That night, my phone buzzed with a new text. No name, just coordinates and a message. Back on schedule. Bring gloves. Attached was a photo of the construction pit, fresh dirt piled high. In the corner of the frame, half buried, was a hard hat. Mine. Now, whenever I drive past any construction site at night, I slow down, not because I'm scared of ghosts, but because sometimes I see the men in unmarked vests, digging quietly, their faces gray under the floodlight. And sometimes one of them looks up and lifts a hand as if to wave me down. I never stop, because I know what they're building, and it's not a bridge. Maybe the scariest part about Craigslist isn't what's posted there, but how ordinary it all seems. A delivery job, a caretaker position, a photography gig that pays cash. Each one starts with a promise: simple work, fast money, no questions asked. And that's exactly how they get you. Every story tonight had something in common. No contracts, no verification, just trust, the most dangerous currency on the internet. Because behind some of those listings aren't jobs, they're traps. Traps set by people who know how to sound normal, how to text fast, how to make you think you're the one in control. But once you show up, once you cross that line between curiosity and desperation, they already have everything they need. Your name, your face, your silence. Craigslist was built to connect strangers, and it does, just not always in the ways we expect. So the next time you see an ad that feels too good to be true, the easy cash, the quiet house, the one-night job, ask yourself who's really on the other side of that post, because sometimes the offer isn't fake. It's an invitation. SFX slow drone fade, faint typing sound, mouse click, heartbeat echo. Post submitted, category gigs, title easy night work, no experience needed. Then a pause, and one final line appears on the screen. $200 flat rate, must be punctual, door will be unlocked. Thank you for listening to these 8 true Craigslist job offer horror stories. If you made it this far, you already know what waits behind the screen isn't always looking to hire. Sometimes it's looking to replace you.